Spring is just around the corner, and I am super excited to get started preparing my new vegetable garden for this season. If you're like me and you want to make the most out of your garden, you want to grow a bountiful harvest, and you want each year to be better than the year before, then this video is going to be one that you're going to want to pay attention to. But as with most things in life, it's the behind-the-scenes planning and efforts that really decide how successful we are going to be in our gardens this year. So before we can start planning, we need to think through, what do we want to grow? We need to gather the resources to grow those things. We need to do that even before we get out in the garden physically and get our hands dirty. Those initial steps are really important to make sure that our vegetable garden becomes what we want it to be. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. So let's tackle these items one by one. The first hurdle is deciding exactly what do you want to grow. Now, I have a tendency to grow the same things over and over and over. And you know, that's not really a bad thing. Over time, I have just found what works in my area, what plants do well, and what don't. It's easy to play it safe and just plant the same things over and over again. But let's face it, in gardening, it's also fun to mix it up a little bit and to try new items, to explore new approaches. So when I decide what to grow, what I do in my garden planning is I like to divide things up 70-30 or 60-40. I save the majority of my growing space and effort, say 60 or 70%, to what I know works well, to what's proven, to what I need to grow to feed myself throughout the year. 60 or 70% of my space and effort goes towards those things that are safe and proven vegetables. They are the staple of my garden. Those are things like lettuce and spinach and carrots, cucumbers, tomatoes, and my summer and winter squash. But I also like to try new things every year for the fun of it, and just to see if I can expand on my gardening abilities. For example, this year, as you can see around me, I have sweet potato slips. And I have those because I'm kind of on a sweet potato kick right now. It's something I'm trying my hand at, growing sweet potatoes up here in my zone 7, especially the Japanese purple sweet potatoes that you see around me. Another area I want to explore more and more this year is patio and container gardening. Now, I have an established area of raised beds that I use every year, and that's really where I grow most of my garden staples. But I realize not everyone has the space for a garden like that. So this year, I will be focusing more on growing items in my garden in containers. I will be focusing more on edible landscaping, how we can make the most out of all the space that we have, no matter how large or how small. So the first thing you want to do is decide exactly what do you want to grow. What true and tried veggies are you willing to grow again? And what new items do you want to try and to explore? Next, to back that up, I do an inventory of what I already have to meet that goal before I go out and start buying a bunch of new seeds. Now, I know it's so much fun when those seed catalogs start arriving and going through them page by page, seeing all the beautiful pictures and all the new varieties. But before I fall for the temptation of buying a bunch of new seeds, I go through my inventory of what I already have. I try to keep my seeds in a cool area in airtight bags, and I keep them as healthy for as long as possible. So if you have an inventory of seeds from the past, first thing you want to do, instead of just going out and buying a bunch of new seeds, just go through them and see what you can plant again, and that way you can save yourself a lot of money. Now, if you're not sure if your older seeds will still germinate, the old trick is to get a wet paper towel and just lay a few seeds in there and just keep it at a warm spot to see if they start to grow. Now, I've never actually had to do that because I have found that almost any seeds that I have up to about 5 years old or so always seem to germinate no problem. So that's the next step. Once you have decided what you want to grow, and if you have the seeds already or if you need to go out and get new seeds for that, the next step is planting your garden, and that can be one of the most fun steps. Now, there are a variety of resources online that you can use to help you plan out your garden. Now, I'm not plugging it, but one tool that I like to use is the Gardener Planner tool that's available on Farmer's Almanac. I find that for my raised beds, it's really helpful to get in there and to design and decide what you want to plant and where you want to plant it. It also helps you to figure out how many plants you're going to need to start indoor ahead of time. Now, for example, I started my cabbage and my broccoli and my tomatoes indoor, and I know exactly how many of each plant I'm going to use by using that garden planner. So by using the garden planner, it really helps you know exactly what plants you need and if you need to start them indoors ahead of time and when you need to do that. You can see my plan here and how I have my raised beds designed for this coming year. Now I keep changing them a little by little back and forth, and it's kind of fun to be able to go on there and try different things in different ways. Now I haven't designed this yet so far, but I'm going to use the same tool to design my container garden. I have about 15 containers that I'm going to be using on my deck this year to try different types of vegetables that are made for container gardening. So after you've decided what to grow and where to grow it, you need to decide when. One of the biggest challenges in gardening is just getting your timing right. When to start preparing your soil, when you have to start planting, when you have to start your seeds indoor, when your harvest is going to be ready to go. Getting the timing right can be the difference between having a successful season and a disappointing one. Now for that, I use an online app called Seed Time. Now Seed Time has both free and paid versions. For my use, I just use the free version. It just seems to work just fine. So once you know what you want to grow and where you want to grow it and when you want to grow it, the next step is just follow your plan. Now for me right now, it means I'm preparing my sweet potato slips. I've started my cabbage and broccoli inside. I've started my cool weather crops, my lettuce outside, and I picked up some more dirt to top off my raised beds and to use in my container gardens. I'm following the schedule in terms of preparing my raised beds and containers, and I'm starting, as I said, my seeds indoor and outdoor according to this schedule. Now I'm going to be going into more details in the future in each of these areas, but for today, I just wanted to give a quick overview of how I prepare my garden, some of the tips and tricks that I use to get my garden ready for the spring. So in summary, prepping your vegetable garden for spring requires planning and preparation, but with these simple steps, you can set yourself up for success. Thanks for joining me today. If you're as excited about gardening as I am, let me know in the comments below what you're planning to grow this year that maybe you've never grown in the past. And don't forget to tune in next time for more seasonal gardening tips and tricks. Bye-bye.